payables and types of transactions in general, IATs, IDTs, IATs, PRCs, REs, etc. Our presenter today is Larry Simpson. Larry is a CPA and training supervisor for the Division of Finance, working with the Financial Information Systems team. He has been using and training on finance since the original implementation, and he has survived all of the upgrades. Please welcome Larry.
I'm not sure everybody else has been so lucky as to survive all the upgrades, but each time we do a big one, there's another group of people that retire, so they don't want to have to do the next thing. Essentially, I took that list of things they wanted to talk about, and I figured, well, let's just talk about, get a little more acquainted with some of the finance features, perhaps, and maybe there's some things that will help us be more efficient. We'll kind of see where that takes us. And we may not have time to stop at all of those documents that you talked about. I suspect that that's probably the case and we'll make it that far. Okay, everybody have your cell phone with you? Okay, this is the point where they say turn off your cell phone. Don't do that, because you can turn the sound down, but we're going to use your cell phone to do a poll. We're going to have you text. So if you would text, the text number is 22333, and in the body of it, put Larry Simpson 774. And then you will get a response back that you're logged into Poll Anywhere, and we can start. This is the hardest thing you will do during the whole hour that we're here. We're not even going to make you walk and do this at the same time. You can sit and do it. I can see some people doing the two-thumb thing, and the other guys are doing my version where you're trying to remember where the alphabet is. Pardon me? The Poll America does not charge. It's if your phone requires you to pay, if your service does that. Yeah, set it up, we'll try and get a GAX for you or something. Okay, everybody find their way in? Okay, ready for the first question. How long have you been using Finet? And the way you answer is you just type one of the alpha characters in the text and you send it back. You just text. Just put like an A and then hit enter and send it in. See, one person has already been successful. Oh, way to go. Some people are just thrill seekers. Oh, we got two. And sometimes it depends. It takes a minute for it to get through your server, your provider, and back out. So we'll give people a chance to. I know we have more than 4 people. Less than 140 have got chairs and more than 4. Is it not coming back for you? Oh, sure. 22333 is the number you're going to. Is it not working? Isn't technology great? No, don't text leave. That's when we're done. That will take you out and you'll have to come back in again. After we finish doing a couple of polls, and I'll tell you when to text leave, and we'll take you back out and do business. No, it could be upper or lowercase. Anything you want to put in there. I told you this is the hardest thing we're going to do for the next 40 minutes or so.
So what service are we using?
It's called Poll Everywhere, and should you find an application for it, it's free. Just go out and download it, and you put in your PowerPoint, and it collects the information and creates graphs on real time. Pardon me?
Can you send comments to it?
Yes, we're going to do that before we're done. Yes,
Comments?
but we do have a filter on it. No, I'm just joking. Did you guys get it working yet? Keyword is not 774. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay, we've got 6 people now, so we're getting closer. 7, well, it's coming up big time. Anyway, it's okay. We'll still move forward in just a second. We aren't testing their stuff here, so let's see what we find out. Okay. You know, this is interesting. This is about the same rate that we get people calling the help desk. We get about between 70 and 80% of the people that call the help desk have been with the state more than 2 years, and you know, everybody else is like brand new. There's this middle group that never calls. So I figure that the chances are when people are new, they're calling to figure it out, and then the people who've been around a while, they're calling because it's a transaction you don't do very often, or it's something they're not familiar with, or they just call a lot and we know who that is, so we can deal with that. All right, so the next one, I'm not sure you can see this from the back, but I'll decode this for you. So what area do you spend most of your time in with finance? We have the GACSs, PRCs, payments is the first one, purchase orders and requisitions, cash receipts, receivables, internal transactions, inventory, fixed assets, or budgeting. Now you only get one, so just kind of flip a coin on the things that you do and see if we can come up with kind of what level of what areas people work in. We got the same 7 people were successful again. That's good. Okay, we'll give you just a couple more seconds, and then we're going to move forward. Actually, the third one will be a lot more fun, so hang on for the next one. Okay, so we'll check down and see. Okay. Oh, a lot of cash receipts people in there. Okay. All right, so now we're going to do the last one. Okay, this one, how would you describe your experience with finance? A couple of words, 2 or 3 words, and we'll see what we get. Well, people are trying to remember how to spell the words. Some people are truthful and some are a little more tactful. So. Now this could be your level of expertise, or it can be how you feel about finance. That's okay too. Let's see if we can kind of. So now, as a word map, if more of you use the same word, the word gets bigger. So everybody's kind of got the same. We're using different words. If there was one thing that was really standing out, it would be a great big word in the middle and all the little ones around it. Okay. We didn't need the filter, obviously, today. And you guys were way more generous than I thought you were going to be. So, I would agree with all of these. I think frustrating probably comes a little more across at our help desk than it does in the room today. And painful might be another one of them. And one of the goals today is kind of maybe address a couple of those. So if you were we're not going to ask anybody to tell us who, but if you were the painful or the frustrated person, if we're not meeting your needs necessarily when we're going along today, let me know, and we'll try to find a way to make that happen. Okay, so the topics, given the generic or the general list, topics that I put together that we may want to talk about are some of the 310 changes. We can talk about the user interface or the shopper that we're using instead of the master agreement search. We can talk about the password reset and hint process. Now, it's our thought from the help desk that maybe this is not very well known because we still have a lot of people calling and telling us their password's locked, and we fix it for them. Essentially, in this process, you go build the security question, and then if you get locked up, you can fix it yourself. We can talk about templates, internal transactions. We can talk about the disbursement. How many of you have used the disbursement options part of a GACS or a PRC? Okay, we can talk about that if you're interested. The difference between check cancel and check cancel replace. And we have what's on the check stub. We can talk about, along the way, Payment Plus, we'll probably talk about that for a minute. Supported browsers, and we can talk about the new data warehouse queries that give you all 15 digits of your document number. So we're going to do one more poll. These are the basic things that were on my list. If you want to put in which one do you think you would like to hear about, and then we'll kind of do it in the same priority that you would prefer that we do that. And I know what I would like to talk about, but that's not all that important. It's kind of turned into an eye test. I probably shouldn't put so many things up there. Okay, now we have 10. That means we have more than one person per topic, so we can at least have one of them show up with more than one entry. Okay, anybody that has not voted and wants to vote, otherwise we'll see where we're going to go. Okay, big group on the changes. Okay, that'll work. And data warehouse choice. Okay. Okay, we'll hit all the ones that are dark, and we may even catch the rest in our travels. Okay, so we'll start with the 310 changes, and I'll just kind of pick some of the things that I think are useful there, and if there's things that you want me to talk about that I haven't yet, we can do that. So I'm going to just log into our training world, where everything works the first time. You can't break anything. Obviously can't break anything, especially for some people. But you may have to still log on correctly. Okay, so first of all, we come into, now the projector brings me down into resolution, kind of, on my screen I can see all of what we define it. So as we come in, there's really nothing different from the previous version of FiNet. We still have all the same options on the side. It really comes into play when we go into a document. So once we're in a document, we have, oh, we're on document catalog. Document catalog didn't change either. Just a new color scheme. Okay, so the document's on the grid, as we had before. All right, now in a document, and probably the first thing you noticed when you went into a document under 310 is that the navigator was missing on the left. And we can open that, and we can, if you choose, you can use the navigator to move things around. The different sections of our document we now call ribbons, and you figured that out, that there's a ribbon for each section, and you can either choose them from the navigator, or you can choose them from a ribbon within the document itself. So if I'm moving from vendor to accounting, I can do that right within the document. You may have also noticed if you use the navigator, that it then gives you just that one section and doesn't give you the rest of the ribbons. You may have found that all of a sudden everything goes away. That just gives you more room to work. And you can do that from the navigator, or you can come over to the right and you can just click on the collapse vendor. That's not the one next to it. Let's click again. There we go. Click here, collapses everything. You can go to your vendor and it will give you just the vendor information. So you can choose how much of the screen you want to use for each section. If you don't like the navigator, you can close that and get back into it. You probably notice that there are multiple ways to enter data. It defaults to the tab view. And if you prefer from the previous version of Finet, you can use the list view, which will then let you scroll down instead of using the tabs. And because I'm in the single view, okay, so if I go to the list view, I can scroll through different sections of the document. So I have your option to do either one. There's one other option that we have not really implemented yet, and that's what's called, what we call the grid view. In that case, once we get it set up, I have to be in the document for it. Okay. Get into one that's not already submitted. Use that one. Okay. Okay, we have okay, the last one we have is called Edit with Grid, and it allows us to set up the fields so you can just enter the information tab, enter tab, and move through the grid for your document. The reason we haven't been pushing this is we have not got all of the grids rearranged so that it has them in the order you may care about. So the order it comes default, it just has the fields crazy, so you have to work through all of them to actually get any work done. And we've got a project working on to go through and set them up so they're in the correct order, so that you may only have to do 2 or 3 tabs and then you're on to your next line. It lets you, it works almost like a spreadsheet, so you finish the line, you insert a new line, and just keep on going without having to scroll through the different parts of the document. Okay, and to get rid of that, you just click we're done. It brings us back into the original view. Okay, from the, in the previous version of Finet, we had some other stuff that were on the navigator. That's where you go to do the reference document, see the previous or the subsequent documents. That's included up here in Action Menu. And here we can add the favorites, we can do page help, document reference. You all use document reference to find stuff. Okay. And so you obviously already found this. Let's see, is there anything that really you have not found yet? The jump to, are you using that when you're doing the shopper page, using the jump to instead of, where you create a favorite so it just goes right there? And you know, you create a favorite just by right-clicking anywhere in the document. In a table. So if we were to go to, say, the shopper, that's just shop, that's right. Yeah, it works better when no one's looking. Okay. Then you just right-click, say add the favorites, and you can create any page out there. You can create a favorite, work it off of the favorites list, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. Now, if you're going to do a page, if you use the jump to, let's say you're in a GACS document and you want to go look up a vendor, you want to go look for a budget. Now you can use the jump to go out, do your looking, and then when you're through and you click the back, it brings you back into your document. If you use the document catalog to do that, you have to close your document, go to the document catalog, or go out to the document catalog or the find page, go to the page, close it, and then find your document again. So that's the real advantage of the shopper page. And because all of the buttons are now visible always, you didn't have to put in the function keys that were so useful before in the previous version of Finance. Let's see, is there anything else that jumps up? So did all of you have a chance to go through the tutorial we sent out for the 310? And did it help? Boy, I need candy I can throw out to the people who did the right answer. Yeah. If it didn't, we need to know so we can do better next time. So, pardon me? No. I just had that discussion a minute ago with somebody else. The hotkeys, that's something that we actually built here in Utah. And it cost a fair amount of money to kind of put all this together by the time we got all the people and all the stuff done. So when we looked at version 310 and saw that we'd actually put in a request that they put the keys, the buttons, where we didn't have to go chase them down at the bottom of the screen. And so our thought was the buttons are here. We had a big discussion on this. The hotkeys are really nice, but we decided to not spend the money on that and to spend it elsewhere. And so we're not going to bring that back. The other thing that did not happen with this was the printing function. Do you guys have to print your documents? Isn't that awful? That's been awful since version 3.7. So in the previous version, of Finance before 3.7, it didn't save the documents on the document catalog. We emptied every 2 weeks. So we had to have a process to verify that the documents had been approved, so when the auditors come and talk to you, there's something. So the print process, it would only print when the documents were approved, so we actually spent a bunch of money and created an easy print process. So we get to 3.7, it wasn't easy then either. So it used to be able, yes, and it used to be you could almost do that in the document catalog. You would check the ones you choose print. So when the version 3.7 was coming along, we saw that the document catalog would just, all the documents would stay there forever. We figured, so why would anybody print? Okay, stay with me here for a minute. Because it seemed to us a no-brainer. All you do is you take your invoice and you write the document number. If you're using it as a filing system, then you just don't use that page anymore. But then along comes, we have to scan them and those kind of things, and then it starts being a little bit more complicated. So the decision was that we didn't see there was a reason to print back in whatever that was, we did 3.7. And so we didn't spend the money to build the print process. So afterwards, then people started complaining, and as we got more familiar with the print process and figured out how bad it was, so we went to start talking to the other users of the software. So with CGI, they have what's called a steering committee, and they elect people from the different sites. So they do governmental accounting, so they have state and local government sites that use their software. So Jerry Gearhart used to be on the steering committee, so he knows everybody. So he started calling around all his friends and saying, isn't this print process awful? And everybody goes, what do you mean? So apparently everybody else has already figured out they don't print or they just put up with it. And we had been spoiled for a while, so we're still learning to put up with it. I suspect in the long run that the scanning process might become, there's all kinds of projects going on. There's projects for doing automated invoicing where the invoices would come in and scan and would build your documents for you. You just go in and clean them up and have somebody approve them. We've talked to multiple vendors. Technology's there, but we haven't quite got to the point where we can do that yet. So anyway, printing's going to just stay the way it is for a while. Maybe for a long while, I don't know. I don't know, that's kind of the basic things with the interface. Let's see. All of you had a chance to use the shopper table. You kind of got familiar with that. Is that any better now than you thought it was when you first got there? No? Okay. Okay, so let's go back up to the shopper table. Okay, let's see if we can simulate that. Okay, so we're going to turn on this because it's only looking for master agreements. And you just use the search for page instead of trying to put it in the boxes? Okay, good. That's kind of one of the nice things we found about the shopper is you don't have to worry about the department or commodity or vendor fields unless you really want to. You can just put up in the search for the thing that you're looking for. So let's say you want to look for buttermilk biscuits, which I'm sure all of you do. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, so we find it down here in the grid. We're going to kind of work up to the part where you have a question. And you've all figured out that if it's an item commodity, you have to put a number. If it's a service commodity, put the dollars, right? Okay. So we're going to write 2 of whatever those are. And add it to our cart. And proceed to check out. Okay. Are we to the point? This is the place? Okay. So it's a shipping and billing location. They're driving me nuts, or? I'm sorry, what? Yes. Right. So it's all the same stuff we put on. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. So if that's an interesting thought. Have you tried, after you get this data, doing a save to favorites and see if it saves the data in for you? Won't do it? It's a good thought. Okay, I've got a note on that. I'm going to ask when I get back and see if we can, there's always 311, right? Maybe there's something we can do to help you on that. So the annoying part here is if you're a PRC user, you didn't used to have to play with the shipping and billing locations. It's just if you were a DO person. And so that's been kind of annoying to folks. Pardon me? Right, and I don't get that either. We've got somebody looking at that to figure out why the delivery date can only be today. Correct. That comes back and gives you an error message on that past date. Yep. I agree with you. And we're trying to figure out why it's doing that. Okay, let's see. I think those were the main things that I had on the 310 stuff. Do you have anything else you want to talk about on 310 that's working? If I narrow it down to things that are working, then I don't have to talk about it as much, right? So call in the help desk and give them the things that bother you. That's the only way we find out. And it's okay. So, Ken will record all that stuff and we'll follow up with it. And our rule at the help desk is we promise not to laugh until after we hang out, right? So, okay, let's see. Okay, next one that was on the list was the new data warehouse queries. Okay, let's see, I need to get to. Okay, I found this quote that I think applies to what we're talking about. Unable to find the information or knowledge they need, employees assume that it's not available, so they recreate it or pay someone to provide it, slowing the process of change. So, my soapbox here for the data warehouse is if you're currently using a spreadsheet or some other way to find that data and put it back together, come talk to us. Let's see if we can make FindIt do it for you. Because we're paying a lot of money to have a system that should be doing all that. I mean, there obviously will be times when you have to bring it out and do some calculations. But if there's anything that we can do internally so that you don't have to, we'd be happy to talk to you about it and see if we can help you. And then the other step then would just be a matter of being familiar with the data warehouse to where you can find the data in an appropriate way that you can then be able to use it. Okay, this is our current data warehouse page. And the updated searches are the web queries and the warrant queries. So what we've done there is really just enhance them so they work a little better. or give you a little more options to work with the data. So we're in the demo version, or the test version here. So, explain it. So I think what they did on Finet is they figured out how long it takes to answer the phone, solve the problem, put your hands on the keyboard, and then it gives you your timed out business. I don't know how they do that. It has some kind of sensor on the machine or something. I have a backup on this. You may just use the backup. It's a lot more fun to do it. I'm just working with the data warehouse folks to make sure this is going to work. And it's just like Finet. That's familiar. Okay, so for the vendor customer query, it hasn't changed dramatically. We have a field for, you can search by vendor name or by the taxpayer ID number. So let's say that we want to do a query for Utah, Idaho Supply Map World. So I put that in the text area, choose search. And by the way, it remembers your last search. That may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing. And then displays what it found in the query. And to identify a vendor, it will have a check mark in the vendor field. If it is a customer, it will have a check mark in the customer field, and a big X on the other one so that you know what it's not. Now, the feature that's new here is we have an additional search. So I'm looking for Utah, Idaho Supply Map World, and I've got all the Utah, Idahos. It identifies all of the vendors and customers that have Utah, Idaho either in the vendor name or in the doing business as name. So now I want to find the specific one. So I can go up to my nested search, put in map, as in Map World, and it comes back with my two vendors that have the word map in the name of the thing. Now it's going to search all of these fields. So you can put a date, you can put an address in, you can put whatever you want in here, and it will search within that initial search and show you the vendors that match that criteria. So prior to this, we didn't have that extra search that you can do once you get inside. And this will be, the nested search is a feature that flows through the other queries also, and allows you to do a second query on your initial results, which are coming pretty handy at times. So that's really the main thing that goes on there. The Online Accounting Journal, how many of you use the Online Accounting Journal? Well, for Gary and Kelly's benefit, we'll talk about it. The Online Accounting Journal, in the current version, the top half of the screen gives you fields that you can use to search, and the bottom half, you have a little checkbox where you check which fields you would like to have in your report. So in the new version, we start out with kind of a blank slate here, and I can back up on that. And we can add whatever fields we want, and there's a drop down that gives us all the fields that are available for our search criteria. And so we can build it, for example, we could choose Department 100, and we can add a unit to it, perhaps. Enforcement of lots of that. Oh, I missed it already. Okay. Oh, there we go. That's an obvious place to put it. accounting period or fiscal year, or fiscal month. Okay, we have fiscal year 2016 already. So now I'm going to look for just transactions for Unit 480 for fiscal period. The fields that are available for the output are listed here. And all I have to do is select it on the right, and we'll put it into the currently selected. And this then identifies all the fields that are going to come out on the report. And if I don't want one here, I can click it, it puts it back into the available ones, and it produces the number of fields. And one of the other things that we'll do in the current OLGL or Online Accounting Journal, it gives you all of the individual documents that meet your search criteria. Now, if you don't need the individual documents, you can choose the summary, and it will summarize it by the elements in your search. So if object code is in your response, it will sort it by object code and give you by the total dollars for those. So if I come out here and do my search for accounting period 1, and then I have a number of transactions out here. So I have a number of them that are in fiscal period, fiscal month 1 account type. So I could, in the summary, I'll summarize that. It will give me fewer transactions, and it will summarize it by the information on the output. So it does give you a little flexibility with that. And also, you can do it, you can narrow your search. So I was talking to Marcy Soper, and she said that she oftentimes will be searching for, say, a dollar amount. So you can do your search without summarizing. And then you come down in the nested search, and you can put the dollar amount you're searching for, and more easily find the document you're looking for. So that's just another feature that seems to be useful in the accounting journal. The Labor Plus works the same way, basically. We have your search criteria is on the left. You add as many fields as you want. Decide what you want to show when you do it, and it will work just like the online accounting journal. And again, you have the nested search. So once you get your initial query, you can then go in and look at the things that are there. On the warrant queries, they're pretty. That's the same model. You go in by invoice number, and once you're in there, you can then search by the narrow search if you need to. And the same works by the warrant number, check number. Put that in, and you can search. Let's see. And there's vendor number. Now, you have a search by vendor number. It has a fiscal year on it, and you say to yourself, "We don't put vendors in finance by fiscal year, so why do we do that?" That's to narrow down so you don't accidentally get 20 years worth of data when you do your search and get way more stuff than you need. And then we have, let's see, you can search by vendor number, vendor name, and then with the GACS, or with the document number, your GACS, PRC, and GMA, you can now enter all 15 digits. You can either put the department and the document number, or you can just put the document number. And it will find whatever fits, and then you can do a secondary search on the document, on your department number if you wanted to. So you have the ability to do it either way. Okay, so that's the new queries. And what I anticipate, although I haven't heard the final result yet, I anticipate that we'll have each of those launch from the same icons that you had before. So it doesn't make you click and then go into this other application and click again to find it. All will happen is instead of being the old version, when you click on it, it will take you to the new one. We were thinking in the next week or so. We've tested it. We actually have a production version out there, and we have a meeting on Thursday to decide exactly how we're going to link it in. And then I think we're ready to go. And they're waiting for me to finish the tutorial. But there isn't really much to finish. You've seen as tough as it's going to be. So it shouldn't be too much. Okay, any questions on the data work? Now, you guys use the Query Studio to create your own queries. should you have need to create your own queries, Data Warehouse has a tool called Query Studio. Now, do you guys use Excel or Access to connect into Data Warehouse? And so in that, you have to know what table you want, and you have to know what field within which tables make sense to create your relationships. Does that sound familiar? Okay, what happens in Query Studio is we create what's called a package. Actually, I don't. Data Warehouse people do. And they create a package that has all of the fields that seem reasonable for that package. So if we're looking at expenditures, it has all the coding block, it has the periods, it has the account types, all the kinds of things that you would use with an expenditure, and you don't have to know what table it comes from. You just grab the package and you start dragging what you want over into the work area, and you format a report the way you want it. And it actually just creates the query, and then you can run that query as often as you want. If that sounds interesting, we do a Data Warehouse Query Studio class. You're welcome to come to, or you can invite me out if a bunch of you want to do it. You can come out. And it takes about an hour and a half to go through and get everybody successful at creating a query, and then you can either hang around and practice where nobody bothers you, or you can go back to work, or you can go home. I don't have to tell anybody when our class ends, so it's up to you what happens. It'll take us about an hour and a half till we get through it. Yes?
Do you have to have a license for Query Studio?
No, Query Studio is a web application. We have the license to use it, and we just go in and use it.
We have report writers, and we have a lot of reports that we build. We give our own tab on all the reports we have. And the reports, but I didn't realize that we're not having a license for Query Studio.
Right. Yeah, we have the license to do it, and then I don't know if we assume that so many people are using it, but no licensing required use. And it's a web application, so if you're not at your desk, you can still get to the data. Holler, and we can get, if you want, I can come down. We can do a group thing down here. You can come up to the office to one of our regular classes and show you how Query Studio works. Let's see. Next thing. Okay. Quickly, we'll hit the check stub. So what you see on the check stub, or what the vendor sees, is they will see your department number, they'll see the document number, the GACS, PRC, GMA number, all 15 digits now. And then they have a section for the invoice number and the description. And that gives you 59 characters to say everything you want to say so that the vendor doesn't have to call you up and ask you what the payment's for. Up to the first 30 characters are reserved for the invoice, and whatever is left of the 59 comes out of your line description field in your accounting line. And on the check stub, it will have an accounting line for every, or a line on the check stub for every accounting line that's included in that payment. And then it has a dollar amount. Now, the process for FINET, for efficiency, FINET each night gathers up all of these submitted GACSs, PRCs, and GMAs, and it groups them by vendor and sends each vendor one check. I mean, that's the ultimate efficiency. So, but the deal is, if you have a vendor that calls you up, talks to you for 20 minutes trying to decode what you're paying for, then it's not efficient anymore. So if you have that kind of an issue with a vendor, you have the ability to click the single check flag and say, I want this GACS or this PRC to have its own check, and so the vendor can deal with it better. From the Division of Finance standpoint, it's more efficient to send out fewer checks, but if you need a single check, we're not going to come back and slap you around for doing a single check on your vendor. So let's say that we gather up all these and we have a vendor and they have 50 documents and 100 accounting lines. That's what they will see on the bottom of their check stub. And supposedly they've given you the invoice number on your documents, so they should be able to decode it from the invoice number. That's also supposedly not always effective. But that's why you get on the check stub. Yes?
What does it cost the state to issue a check?
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know. Rick Beckstead would probably know the answer to that. You give him a call and see.
I'm just curious.
But I'm in sales, not in production, so my view of the world would be you do whatever your vendor can handle and you let somebody else worry about what's going to cost you. So that'll get back to my boss and say, you shouldn't have said that. Now, one other thing, when you're creating your payment documents and you're in the line description field, if you want to make it look nice in there, so you press the enter key or you tab or something, don't do that. As soon as you do, the brain stops working and it won't put the rest of your characters here in the description field. So just type it and let it wrap ugly around in your document, and it will give you up to 59 characters here. Otherwise, as soon as you hit tab or hit enter in the line description field, it stops thinking, and that's all they're going to get on the check stub. Okay, let's see. Any questions on check stub? Okay, let's see. Okay, the only thing we have to talk about really on the check cancel replace. We do a check cancel, it doesn't put the money back on your master agreement. It just goes away, and then you have to figure that out yourself, work with purchasing to add it back or whatever.
Are they ever going to fix that?
I haven't heard anybody talking about fixing that. If you do a cancel replace, it puts the money back on the MA because it cancels the check and then it comes back out. It creates a replacement as part of that process. So you'll see it come and go if you do a cancel replace. That doesn't help if the check is just wrong, and you have to get it canceled. So just be aware it doesn't go back. I'm going to quickly hit the Payment Plus. This is off our website. Essentially, U.S. Bank came to the state and said, we have this nifty deal where you pay us and we will work with your vendors to give them a credit card, and the payment, we'll just put the money on their credit card and they can use that to buy stuff. And the vendors get a charge for that. It's just like using a credit card. So when the money comes down, they get charged, and the state gets a little bit of that, so we actually make money off of this. I'm guessing that's why they said they do it. So our view of the world from finance is, why would anyone do that? They can do EFT for free and have it go right to their bank. And what we find is sometimes the vendors will sign up for that because it sounds interesting, and then they find out what the cost is and they call us and we take them off. Or they end up getting one big payment somewhere along the way. We got a car dealer a couple of years ago. They went onto it, and then the state bought a whole bunch of cars, and they're going to send them this one big payment. And they looked at it, and all their profit went up in the service charge. And so if you run into that, we fix that in finance. We can back out the payment and send them a check. And if you ever have a vendor call and they use the keyword Payment Plus, have them call the Finance Help Desk. All the correspondence that we give to them says, call the Finance Help Desk if you have any questions. And what they get an email from the U.S. Bank that has the same information that you get on the check stub. So they shouldn't really have any need to call and work on stuff. But it's available. Yes?
I've been dealing with Moon Lake on that.
Okay.
And they're small, and they say they get money from the state for people who can't pay their bills, and so they can't go on a regular check, or they will lose that money that they get. And so I was working with Marcy on getting a second vendor that we could send those checks to, because they're a utility company.
Oh, okay.
So that we could send those checks to them, and they can still do the Payment Plus for whatever else they do. So yeah, that's.
So there may be some value to the Payment Plus. I hadn't really come up with a good reason, but yes.
Is there a way to tell on a payment document?
96. 96 in the bank code.
Yes. And the bank code is 96. And it's 94 for a normal check. And you never, ever, ever, ever put anything in the bank code field, right? So if you do it, we'll be wrong. Then you'll have to work with us to reconcile the state's bank statement. It's kind of a subgroup of direct deposit is what it kind of works out to be. Okay. While you worked with the disbursement option section, as I said earlier, and the things that we're talking about here is the basic process for the state is you create a GAX or PRC or GMA, find out processes tonight, and automatically mail the check out directly to your vendor. You don't touch it. And the auditors like that, and we like that. Fewer hands. But what if you need to get the check so you can put subscription materials or something with it? In that case, you can use the handling code, tell finance either to send the check back to your department or you can have somebody pick it up. You can put the stuff with it. Also, here's where your single payment flag is if you need to have that transaction have its own check. And the last thing is scheduled payment date. You guys use the scheduled payment date at all? It defaults to today. But let's say that we're going to let you take some time off next week. I know we're stretching it, but we're going to be off next week. And you normally make a certain payment next Thursday. The check goes to them on Thursday. So you could put next Wednesday's date in the scheduled payment date field, and Finance will get it all approved, and Finance will just let it sit there until next Wednesday. It will then process that document on Thursday to check this out. Now, you have to do that before your document is submitted. Once your document is submitted, then you have to use the Document Management by Disbursement table, the DISB MD table, and tell Finance that you need it fixed. You guys run into that? To do that, the table looks like this. You put in your document code, whether it's a GACS, PRC, or a GMA, and your document number. It then gives you your document in the grid, and it gives you these options. So I can go out and I can change the scheduled payment date, I can change the handling code, or I can change the single check flag using that process. Now this has to happen before tonight. Remember, with the payment document, you get it submitted today, it's going to process tonight. So if you need to change this, you have to change it before you process tonight. So if I go out and then I mark, yes, I want a single payment here, I choose update the selected document, and it will now be set for single payment. If you go back and look at the document, it doesn't look any different. This all happens when we do the processing. This then matches up with your document, and it will now be a single check. So if you need one of the disbursement options things and you didn't get it in before it's submitted, you can go here, you can get it done tonight. And you can look in the online help, it'll walk you through it. We can call the help desk. Okay, what I was going to talk about on IDTs, IETs, and ITAs. Does anybody do IETs on purpose? Okay. Have you tried doing it with an IDT, or is it one that's already set up so that you just keep using the same one over again? So the advantage of an IDT, okay, the IET you have you have the first party and the second party, and you have to pick the right stuff. On an IDT, you just decide whether it's an expense or a revenue. The debits or a positive number is a debit, a negative number is a credit, and as long as the balance is to zero, you're done. So I'll throw that out. You all obviously have a reason why you still do IETs. If we can help you with that, let us know, because it's obviously an easier document to work with. On the ITI, ITA, were you aware that on the ITA document, you don't have, okay, let's tell you why we might do one of these. Let me find that real quick. Okay, the IDT and the IET are used when you have security for both sides of the transaction. So you can do it. The ITI, ITA is designed when you don't. If you have security to start the transaction and somebody else needs to approve the other half of it, that's why we do those. So if you deal with ITAs, well, also there are some departments where they're big enough that they might have security for both sides, but they really want somebody else to be responsible for the other side, so they still do it. If you get the ITA, you can reject the ITA, go in and make the changes and resubmit it and reapprove it, and you're okay. That's the only document in Finance that the person who approves can actually reject it, make changes, and then process the document. That's all I had for IETs and IDTs and ITAs. You guys use templates, right? Accounting templates and document templates. Okay, the accounting templates let you take, if you have a certain accounting codes that you use, fund accounting or detail accounting, you can set up a template and just use that and let it fill in all those fields for you. A document template, if you have a payment that you make periodically, you can set it up as a template. So what typically you do is you make the first payment, you save it as a template, and then it won't ever pay accidentally. Each time you need to reuse it, you just copy it into a new document, fill in the remaining information, and read it. So if you need some more information on those, the Finance Help talks about it, or you can call the help desk. Okay, anything else? Supported browsers, that's always been a hot topic. We talked to CGI and they said, They officially support Internet Explorer 8, 9, and 10, and Firefox 17 ESR. So we had to look that up. What's ESR? It's an enterprise version of Firefox that we don't use in the States. So looks like if you're in the 40s, you're okay on the Firefox. Jerry says he's using 41, so should be okay. And you can use Safari on the iPad. Noticeably absent is Chrome, because it kind of looks funky and does weird stuff sometimes. Okay, is there anything else you were hoping we'd talk about? I finished my list. And everyone's saying it's time to go. And my time's up. Call the help desk if you have questions, and we'll be happy to work with you. Call us if you have concerns or you have things that are driving you nuts, please. Because sometimes we just don't know about it. And we're happy to work with you. So that's it. Thank you.